Behold, it's Natalia. Let's go find some monkeys, shall we? Would you say sex is like riding a bicycle? Nothing gets me going like Christmas and wigs. Let's check out this show.
I remember the first creature I beheld. He was a squirrel. His name was Kevin.
I heard you need a DNA sample.
I want to find light and joy in things that bring us together and unite us. And I think science is something that can unite us. Ow. God damn.
There's a world out there, a world that needs to be beheld.
Last couple of days up in Three Rivers, California, just outside of Sequoia National Park. I was still working, but I was able to sneak away later in the day and hug giant sequoias like General Sherman, who is the largest tree. Oh, can you hear me? Uh-oh. Oh. Oh. Okay. Do you want me to give you a different which one is this? Is this for both? Oh, am I back? Hello. Hi. Live entertainment, people. This is what we got. Thank you, Peter, for helping us. And always a shout out to Peter Tucker, who is the most amazing producer, works for a maniacal boss like myself. I keep him in line. No, just kidding. He's wonderful, and we love you, Peter. But yeah, I just got back from Sequoia National Park, where I got to fraternize and hug so many trees. I got to get inside the trees because there's a lot of lightning strikes on these giant sequoias, so I get to nestle in their they look like lady parts, honestly, and I get to get inside, and I just feel so warm and special. It's like hanging out with the elders, quite honestly. But it was nice to get out into nature, touch some grass, hug some trees, and now we're ready to take on all this bullshit happening in our country. Because I created Survival of the Filthiest when, well, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to do something because this country clearly is on a steam locomotive heading for hell, and the best way I could combat that was to interview scientists, activists, educators, comedians that are doing great work to move this country forward rather than a million steps back. So, and this is a reminder too, if you like the show, feel free to hit that like button. Please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And if you really enjoy this elaborate production, you can join my Patreon. And I also lead trips to different areas of the world. And I just launched a trip to the Galapagos Islands next January 6th through the 12th. I'm wearing my Galapagos shirt. That's Charles Darwin riding a Galapagos tortoise, if you wanted to know. But yes, you should come. And if you want to come, Peter's going to put the link in the chat, and you can do that right now. There's, I think, one early bird spot left, and then 6 more spots. So please, let's go. It's going to be 7 days. Let's Galapagos. 7 days, 3 islands, so much endemic wildlife. The animals in the Galapagos are so habituated to human presence. You're not supposed to touch them, and do not touch them. Sometimes they touch you. I got nipped by a sea lion at one point. I did not want that. We did have some prolonged, intense eye contact, which I think was an oxytocin release for both of us, I'd like to think. But yes, you should come. You get to snorkel with penguins, fraternize with Galapagos tortoises, sea lions, blue-footed boobies, red-footed boobies, Nazca boobies, my boobies. Well, you know, covered boobies, of course, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, today, I wanted to talk about something that we actually started talking about last week, but we went on so many wonderful tangents because my guest is, what could I say? Absolutely brilliant. An amazing science communicator, atheist activist, and just does wonderful work here on YouTube and beyond. And so we're going to talk about why and how science is political. Heck, everything is political. Everything. As a scientist, I always say, whoever does the science is bringing with them their biases. So if you have certain beliefs, the science is going to be shaped by those beliefs. The questions, the methodology, the results are all going to be shaped by the people doing it. So inherently, if you're a political person, which anytime I've been on dating sites, anytime somebody says they're apolitical, what they're saying is they're right wing. That's all they're saying. So everybody is in some way political. Identity matters, and how you identify in the world is also going to shape your political views. And, you know, we talked about this last week, and after our first conversation, some key Doge members were interviewed, and some Doge bros and staffers were attempting to answer questions about what exactly is DEI, because these young Doge bros, Doge dogs, what do we call them? Doger dogs? I don't know. They were the ones tasked with approving or denying grants based on whether they had any aspect of DEI, which literally could be just mentioning women or African Americans or just whoever the group that's being studied touched lightly on what DEI is considered, but they couldn't even define DEI. And this is what's so terrifying, and that these young men, between mostly the ages of 19 and 25, couldn't define DEI, but then also when asked the question, do you feel like your lack of experience with these fields and just sort of academic background makes you the right guy to be making these decisions? They're like, yeah, I think I have enough lived experience. No, sir, you do not. Anybody named Justin should not be making life-changing decisions for career scientists. That's just my opinion. And in February 2026, the Trump administration revoked the 2009 endangerment finding, a cornerstone scientific report declaring greenhouse gases a threat to public health, dismantling the legal bias for EPA climate regulations. And this action, again, allows for massive deregulation of emissions from cars, trucks, power plants, thus making it just basically an atmospheric nightmare. So these are all things that are heavily influenced by science. And when politicians use the phrase, I'm not a scientist, but it's like, well, maybe you should be asking scientists and listening to scientists. I don't know, just crazy thought. So today, let's talk about who we're talking to. We're talking to Aron Ra, atheist activist and science communicator extraordinaire. You've probably seen his wildly popular YouTube shows and all his sassy snakes, dogs, cats, you name it. He's got all the wonderful animals living. I mean, I think, I don't know if he'd like this comparison, but Aron, you're like the Noah of atheists. Now that I think about it, you've got all these animals and I love it. Aron is a vocal critic of theism and creationism and an advocate for inclusion of evolution in science curricula. Very important. Ra produces YouTube videos on the topics of evolution, skepticism, free thought, and atheism. Ra is regional director for American Atheists and is also director of Phylogeny Explorer Project. He has engaged in live debates with young Earth creationists, including Ray Comfort, and presented at skepticism conferences in Europe. As a member of the Unholy Trinity, I love it, he toured the United States and Australia with two fellow atheist activists, Seth Andrews of the Thinking Atheists and Matt Dillahunty, formerly of the Atheist Experience. He's appeared in the documentary films My Week in Atheism, directed by John Christie, and Batman and Jesus. I want to see that. Directed by Joseph K. Richards. He published his first book, Foundational Falsehoods of Creationism, in 2016. He is the host of the Ramen podcast. Please, people of the internet, welcome Aron Ra. How are you, Aron? How are you doing, Aron?
Oh, thank you very much. I need to update that bio. I'm not on the.
Yeah.
I'm not a regional director anymore. But I am on the board of directors.
Okay.
For American Atheists, and I'm very proud to be in that position. Also, I haven't done a Ramen podcast in a bit.
Okay.
The trip with that is that I'm the motto of the show is that anybody can complain and everybody does. But rather than just put out any more negativity, I wanted to celebrate somebody that not only has a plan, but is actually working it to make things better. And it's hard to find guests who are like that, who are taking on the increasingly overwhelming shititude to try to do something good with it.
It's
so
tough.
You mentioned how a man on the verge of his 80s who is racing to either die or go to prison, and who he will advocate for anything that makes him a profit, and it doesn't matter to what end. So if wind power is or solar power are renewable and they don't cost anything, so then he's not going to make a profit off it, so he argues against those.
Yep.
And because we're beholden to fossil fuels, that's why he advocates against electric cars, even when his strongest supporter owns an electric car company.
Yeah.
So all he cares about is the next fiscal quarter. And this is true of a lot of them. So in the Texas Republican Party platform, one of the first in what year was this? It was relatively recent, but they were talking about how they wanted to harvest everything in the Gulf. But not just life, send out more gill net fishing trawlers just drag in everything that lives in the Gulf and also exploit it for oil. Doesn't matter what British Petroleum did several years ago, you know, with their destruction. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the risks are. Governor, or excuse me, yeah, Texas Governor Rick Perry, one of the very first things that he did was accept a $100,000 donation from an industry that needed to pollute public waterways. So within 30 days, there was legislation so that it would allow for industries to pollute public waterways. Specifically, they were dumping toxic waste into a public aquifer. And then one of the first things that Trump did upon becoming president was stop the block that Obama had put on the Keystone Pipeline, because I was at Standing Rock. You know, I was there to see the protests going on
wow.
that the public media would not talk about.
What was that like?
It's amazing to see, and this would remind you, Obama was still president. So this was when both sides of the aisle are Hillary was involved and Obama was invested in it. Of course, Trump was invested in it. They all had personal funds invested in this oil pipeline. And so no mainstream media, the only reason you would know about it at all was social media.
Yeah.
The only way you could find out that Standing Rock was even happening was through Facebook. And how did they do that? And this is where Mark Ruffalo, the guy who played the Incredible Hulk. Yeah, he sent a solar-powered electric generator, a massive one on wheels. He sent this generator to Standing Rock so that people could charge their phones and thus get video. And if you stand on top of this small hill, you'd get a little bit of signal so that you could transmit out. And one of the other things, the way that people got publicity to this was when the Super Friends showed up. So the story that I got was that it was because this happened after I'd left, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and the guy who played the robot cyborg character.
Oh God, you're asking the wrong person. Oh God, the rope.
Yeah,
I know. Okay.
And then on the day that we were leaving, when we had to get back, we were leaving. We heard that Aron Brockovich was being brought in to do a very public trial.
Oh wow!
So they were going to go public with this because what they were doing up to that point was psyops.
Yeah,
they were doing things like sending a crop duster over the camp at night to drop something. Nobody knows what. Now, I'm not thinking it's DDT or anything like that. I don't think it was anything necessarily dangerous. I think they just wanted to scare people because they were going out of their way to scare people. You know, shooting people with rubber bullets because you won't let the government onto your land to pollute your waterway. So the first thing that Trump did as president was when Obama went with the Army Corps of Engineers and he put a block to it. We went with their recommendation. They said that this is not safe. We don't care that you're invested. This is not safe for the water system. There is one water source for all these people. You can't run a pipeline through it. It will break. We all know that it will. And so when Aron Brockovich is getting involved and all of these movie stars are transmitting this information around, then it doesn't matter that CBS and NBC and CNN are not covering this. People are still finding out about it. And the reason that I had to go personally was because when I found out about it, I thought it was a bullshit story. Because why haven't I seen this on the news?
Right.
When I tell people about it, they tell me that it's a bullshit story. Why haven't they seen it on the news? So I had to go. I had to go and be there and say, look, this is a thing. This is really happening. And so a bunch of other people were doing the same thing. And so Obama realized this is a bad look.
Yeah.
So I have to stop this. Hillary, of course, went along with it. Had she won the election, she would have stood by Obama's decision. But Trump, no. Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about the environment. Very first thing he did was violate that determination of the Army Corps of Engineers, go through with it anyway. So then, what was it? Tens of thousands of gallons of crude oil get pumped into the only water source. And it didn't just happen once.
No.
It broke over and over again.
And in moments like these, you have to remember who's being affected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Trump is still all about that. One of the
Indigenous.
first bits of legislation that Trump promoted was much like with Rick Perry, right? All these Republican conservatives, they don't give a fuck about the environment. They care about the industries paying them.
Yep.
Rick Perry was famous for if your company gives him $100,000 donation, your company will benefit from custom-made legislation within 30 days. And that I saw, I think that was about 11 times that I saw that for Rick Perry. I know there was more. So the corruption is, that's all they're about, is corruption. So they want to harvest everything in the Gulf. They want to drill, baby drill. They want to frack everything. They don't give a fuck about the environment at all because they're 80 years old. They're not going to be here. Or,
which is also,
or the excuse is, and this is one I've heard frighteningly a lot, is that it doesn't matter how many starving children they have in this post-apocalyptic hellscape, because Jesus is coming back any minute now. And the first time I heard that any minute now thing was 1964.
This is one long minute. Very long minute. No, but it's interesting. You know, you made the great point that they're 80. You know, they don't care because the world's well, they're 80. Why do they care about their bottom line so much? Where, you know, they can't take that money with them. I guess they can pass it on to their dependents, but you know, it just seems to me like this bottomless pit of greed.
Well, what do I know about having money when I don't have money? Okay.
We were just talking about this.
it seems that money is addictive, I guess. I mean, there was a time not that long ago when I was able to, pay my bills every month. That was nice. That's what I thought I was rich. I could pay my bills.
Right. And I think it's a really deep cyclical problem too. I think that, you know, if we look, oh, and by the way, I just want to do a shout out to my unfinished journey number 3. Gonna go for it. Hail Natalia and Aron, and hail fighting the good fight. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We're trying, and we're also trying to eat while we can. Just foraging in the city for luckily, like living in Los Angeles, there's always like avocado and orange trees that you can just sort of like, oh look, I'm gonna take an orange, this is my lunch. No, but it is I think a very well thought out dastardly cycle of keeping people cut off at the knees so you can't fight. You know, it's hard to fight back when you are struggling to hang on. So things even like women's reproductive health is a great example of how science is political. When they're using misconceptions about abortion and how dangerous it is, when it's absolutely not dangerous. What's really dangerous is childbirth. Childbirth is insanely dangerous. It's still dangerous. We have one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world, and it's triple for women of color, especially Black women. So I would be terrified to have a baby in this country if I was a woman of color and I did not have a good support system or good health care, right? But this is and also the fact that women's health has not been properly studied. Things like endometriosis and women's different cancers that affect women are not nearly as studied as in depth as other cancers or other ailments. You know, if there was an ailment that affected men that made sex highly painful for 10% of men, are you kidding? They would be studying the crap out of it. But because endometriosis is not so sexy, not so hot, you know, it's like, you guys are just making it up. You don't know what you're talking about. But
So
it's wild.
I have a bunch of snakes, some of which
Go
I
on.
really love. And everybody, when you sex a snake, when you determine whether it's male or female, there's a way to push it on the cloaca that pops the hemipene out, and the hemipene is a Lovecraftian love story that once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, and it's horrible. But it's a two-headed monster, and the fact that it is two-headed should have given somebody a clue. But it's like you say, when they study women's aspect of anything, you don't get a study. There isn't sufficient study. So what we had was that there was a panel of women
Yep.
who started studying snakes to discover that if the male has two, two, so then the female might have, and they do.
Yep. The
It turns out
hemiclitors.
female snakes have dual clitori. And one of the interesting things about that study was when a group of 7 or 8 female scientists mentioned in the study that it had to be a group of 7 or 8 female scientists, or else we would have never studied this at all.
Absolutely. I interviewed the lead.
A panel of male scientists to find a clitoris.
It's true. I interviewed. So that study came out a month after they finally counted all the nerve fibers on the human female clitoris to discover that the human female clitoris, the glans clit, had 2,000 more nerve fibers than previously thought, because the former studies, I got to interview the surgeon who actually led that study. Those first initial studies were done on a livestock, on a cow's clit. And I do a whole bit about, like, I'd love to be a fly on that barn wall. Come here, Bessie. I want to see what you got going on down there. 1, 2, 5,050. But 2 months later, the snake slit study came out. And then we now know that they have clitorises. But I interviewed Megan Falwell, the lead researcher, and I asked her, I said, yo, she's so great. Because by the way, Aron, they're Australian and they're so free. And I interviewed her, and like she kept picking up different jars of different hemiclitors and corresponding hemipenes. You would love this woman. You should have her on, because she's amazing. But it was hilarious. I asked her, I said, was it hard to find? And she said, no. Like you said, you just lift up the flap and there she blows. The 2-pronged hemiclitors, I always say it's forked. The carpets match the drapes. So everything is good to go. But yeah, it's bonkers. It took an all-female and by the way, when the surgeon, Dr. Blair Peters, finally counted all the nerve fibers on the human glans clit, I asked them, why did you, and by the way, Dr. Blair Peters is a gender-affirming care surgeon. And I asked them, why did you do this study? What was the impetus? And they said, well, we wanted to build a better penis. So it still came down to the peen of why they counted all the nerve fibers on the female clit.
Because it had to be from the male perspective regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
But the good news, at least, I always like to point out, this is why trans care benefits us all, right? Because we now know, and they're actually now counting all the nerve fibers on the penis. And the spoiler alert was it's less. They're still, I think, coming up with that paper, but still, that's how sensitive.
Let me ask you about this, and I have to really appreciate your excessive nerdiness. Yeah, 2 people what other 2 people would know about this study to even talk intelligently about serpentine clitori?
Actually, you know what? Technically, I would never. I think you would appreciate this. It's clitorides is the. I know. I only know this because I study spider monkeys, and spider monkeys have a hypertrophied clitoris that dangles from their undercarriage like a fleshy lady finger. It literally. Have you ever seen a spider? Like, if you see a spider, the first time I saw one, Aron, I thought that gentleman spider monkey is very well hung. And then my advisor was like, no, she belongs to the big clit family. So that's how I know that clitorides or clitorises. But clitori just sounds more fun, honestly. I actually have Dolores the clitoris. I realized she's not in here. She's in my car because I just went up to Sequoia National Park, and I don't go anywhere without my clitoris puppet. But she is a star of my science comedy show, and I feel like you would love her. She large and in charge.
So I've listened to all these creationists who The father is the ruler of the household, or the husband is the king of the household or whatever. And the wife is his collective property and has to do whatever he says, and she doesn't get a vote or anything like that. And
Oh,
she can't even be a witness in a trial without male witnesses backing her up and that sort of thing. And the apologists for the creationism would say idiotic things like there's a lump of hamburger that sat around since the Big Bang. There's a Big Bang and life forms began, and then they talk about what appears to be like a lump of hamburger that sits around for millions of years and suddenly grows eyes, legs, and a tail, because they have no idea about population genetics or anything. They don't know what evolution is. They have no idea. They think that evolution is Pokemon or transformation or some such shit. And so they have a lump of hamburger that grows eyes, legs, and a tail, and is the first dog. It becomes the first dog. And then it has to go look around for a mate, because there has to be another lump of hamburger somewhere else that also grew eyes, legs, and a tail and became the first female dog. Because everything has to be the male.
of course.
The magically animated mud golem that God put together in Genesis 2, is it? Or no, which one was it? No, in Genesis 2. Because in Genesis 1, it goes after the pattern of Enuma Elish, where the gods, plural, make 7 male and 7 female figures, just like it says in Enuma Elish. But then in Genesis 2, they do a completely different one. This one is using the golem spell, where you create a single figurine and then breathe into it the breath of life to bring it to life. And that was male, because everything has to be male first. And then the female is like the subset of the male somehow. It's like which, understanding that invertebrates, at least, we are technically all female to begin with and require a hormonal intercession to become male. So I said, well, if that's the case, and if you just block that passage, then everybody would be born female. Well, then that means that the female is the basis, right? Because you have to alter the female to make it male.
Male.
And, round about 2010, 2012, boy, the edgelords on the interwebs lost their fucking minds over that.
Yeah.
How dare you say anything positive or empowering or what I don't think that I said anything demeaning to men at all by recognizing an anatomical fact.
Not at all.
But some people are really bothered by facts.
When the science does not light up with the narrative that they are so married to, they will reject it. That's just how it goes. If it and in the case of what we were just talking about, and it's so funny when you mentioned Trump was all about the prophet, wanting to have that prophet, wanting to be all about profit. I also think it's just very funny that prophet has two different meanings. I think of being the prophet because he is the prophet in so many eyes of his followers, right? He runs a cult, but he also is all about the prophet. It's this sort of interesting double entendre of what this man is all about. And it's really sad that and it's almost, how do I put this? Watching Epstein and watching the Pam Bondi, the files come out, Pam Bondi, the hearings and everything, seeing her refusing to look at the victims, all these different files coming out that are making it very clear that there were so many men that were part of this web of predators. And
But
seeing
wasn't just men now, let's be fair.
Yes. Well, there is the only one. Yeah. Pardon?
Let's look at Bondi herself.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
She's complaining, well, what did Merrick Garland do when he was in? Oh, well, Merrick Garland's in a different situation because certain things had not come to light. There was some things that were still under investigation or were still under trial or whatever. But let's go back a little further than Merrick Garland, because it turns out that there was enough information that the Department of Justice had to prosecute Epstein way back in the Bush W administration, and that powerful people in that administration realized they were powerful people being implicated, and so they just decided to not do anything about it. So where was Epstein at that time? He was in Florida. Where was most of this going on? It was in Florida. He and Trump together in Florida. And who was Attorney General in Florida at that time?
Yep.
Pam Bondi.
Have you seen the commercial from when she talks about trying to clean the world of predators, of traffickers of women? There's a great commercial from when she was Attorney General in Florida, basically saying she's going to clean up this disgusting web of predators. You're just like, oh.
Correct. There was a glitch in the recording. One or two very short words were removed from that statement. She was going to clean up from this disgusting practice. And so she did make millions out of it.
Yeah. No, and I do think, and I feel like we talk about folks wanting to be white adjacent, right? Like maybe, for instance, people that voted for Trump that aren't white, that want to feel, are looking to have that sort of adjacency to whiteness. But I also think there's this male adjacency that we're seeing, and I've seen as somebody who's grown up in the film industry and worked in science, where there's boys clubs. Boys clubs have always existed, right? And there's this sort of desire to fit in with a boys club. You see it with like a Ghislaine Maxwell or a Pam Bondi or a Kristi Noem, where you're never going to be part of it. You're never going to be fully part. You are going to be the first one they toss under the bus, the first one. And I have worked in a lot of male-dominated spaces on a lot of film and production.
Are you implying that that's the reason Ghislaine is the only person
in jail, right? Yeah. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Well, but that was a hoax. So I guess she was jailed. Why was she jailed if this was a hoax?
I don't know. Did she wear white after Labor Day? I don't know. I mean, what do you jail rich people for? I don't even know these days. Oh, yeah. Oh, hold on real quick. My unfinished sock gotta go for it. Don't trivialize female anatomy. Like and share the stream instead. Thank you. This has got me so mad I can't say words.
Yeah.
No, it is
on that. When Peter grabs the thing to bring over to you to read, his name is always attached to the donor's name.
Oh, that's what it is. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah. So at my unfinished whatever, and then
gonna go for it,
and then the claim, and the way that there's sometimes stuck together.
I know.
They're a little hard to read sometimes.
You're Velcroed. It's like you're yeah.
Since we're talking about these politicians and their science, I have to make a confession. I have to talk about something that is personally embarrassing for me. I heard the hype from ages ago that the guy that there was some genius atheist who was not raised in America, so he wasn't with all of the indoctrination and all of that. So and he's like this computer programmer or some such thing who started up these brilliant companies like PayPal and Tesla and a few others. And so I'm hearing these stories about how this guy is challenging the fossil fuel industry by inventing electric cars that have superpowers, right? They're such high performance and all of this. There's a downside in that he's a computer nerd, and what the fuck does he know about style or creature comforts or anything like that? So that's the reason that the Teslas didn't have cup holders.
Oh, what?
Yeah, no, because he just doesn't know what the fuck but then when it came time to him for him to build a truck, I remember wincing a little bit, because the fuck does a computer programmer know about a truck?
Yeah.
And the truck I was expecting, the truck I always wanted, right? I wanted to build, there was an episode of The Simpsons where Homer Simpson's get to design a car, right? And so somebody who owns a car company gives Homer the chance to design and build his own car.
Mm-hmm.
And he destroyed the company by building something ridiculous. If I had the opportunity to build a truck like what Elon was doing, I would have built a completely opposite truck to what he's talking about. What
would you have built?
It still would have had at least 35-inch tires, if not 40s. it certainly would have been capable of wearing 40s.
Right.
But instead of being extra stupid heavy and bulletproof only to 9 mm, or apparently steel ball bearings that can get through,
I didn't even know it was
instead of
bulletproof.
building this ridiculous eyesore that looks like it was designed by a 5-year-old, I would have built something that is completely versatile. I drive a Jeep. Half the year, the roof is off, the doors are gone. I'm not worried about being bulletproof. Okay. I would have a truck that you can put, it depends on how you fold down the roof, but you can have a SUV with everybody inside, or you can take it off just the back or fold it down the back, and now you've got a crew cab pickup truck, short bed pickup truck, or you have a single cab long bed pickup truck, or you can take the whole roof off and even fold the windshield down, because I like that. I like to be out in the open. That's why I ride a motorcycle as well.
Yeah.
Took the windshield off my motorcycle within 10 minutes of it getting my driveway.
Really?
Yeah, I hated the windshield on the motorcycle. I want to be out in, literally in the wind.
Your hair. I just see hair like breezing.
I usually have to tie it up. Okay, but I do.
So
but I'm doing this opposite thing. I want the doors to be able to come out. I want the floor to fold in a certain way.
Oh.
So you've got 3 seat bench, 3 seat bench, 3 seat bench. And so you've got seat belts for 9, or it would at least be 3. It would at least be 3, at least seat belts for 8.
Wow.
And then when the back bench folds down, the way that I designed it myself, the way that it folds down would be a flat floor. So, and I don't know why they don't do that. There was an LTD station wagon back in the 70s that did do that, but I would do something similar. They stopped doing that.
They would fold. So they would go into the floor.
Then the back seat folds down into the floor, and the middle column folds down. So you can either have 2 seats in all carrying capacity, or you can carry 3, or you can carry 6, or you can carry, if you need to, you can put the roof and the doors out back on, fold all the seats back up, and you can still carry 9 people around. I want one truck that does everything you need done. It's an SUV. It's a dune buggy. It can be any of those. I want complete versatility. That's not what Elon wanted.
No.
Elon wanted something stupid that shows people how stupid you are if you drive this.
I'm curious. First of all, I love your idea. I had a pickup truck for 6 years. It actually, I think you know this, I got hit by my own truck as a pedestrian, and it was in fact a 94 Ford Ranger extended cab. And I loved that truck. I loved having a pickup truck. I did props and set dressing in commercials, and was also, I helped everybody and their mother move for those 6 years. I'd hear people, I'm sorry, I haven't talked to you since 3rd grade. Word has it, you have a truck. But no, I love having the utility. I love to camp. I love to get outdoors. I love the idea. I want to off-road. I want to not have to worry about, my tires popping and this and that, or the suspension. I love your idea.
No worries with
who wants to hire you.
I have no worries about going off-road with my Jeep.
Yeah.
I got 37-inch mud tires. Oof. And it's lifted, and it's just, I took it out into the Badlands of Wyoming to go on a paleo expedition. I wanted to bring something that I knew could get here. Short story. I'm in South Africa, and where they for a expedition, a paleontological expedition, and what they did was they would take me out at like 8 o'clock in the morning, drop us all off in different places within a few miles of each other, and so we would communicate by walkie-talkies. Now, occasionally you can see other people in your party, maybe like on the hillsides or whatever, very small hills. But for the most of it, I'm alone. I'm walking around the wilderness of Africa in the desert alone. Right. And so fortunately, I didn't see anything really impressive. I spooked a hyrax. I came across a tortoise.
That's cool. I love hyraxes.
I came across a dome-shaped tortoise like we don't have in the States. I saw kudu. I did see a kudu, and also an adder at one point. But I was wearing ridiculous boots because I was told that they were cobras. So I wore biker boots to a paleo expedition with steel shin guards.
They'd bend their teeth if they tried to bite you.
So yes, but anyway, it's beautiful. in the first few hours of the day, but by the end of the day, the temperature, it's 42 degrees Celsius. I was at 104 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So, and
Hot.
all the energy just gets sapped out of you, right? So at the end of the day, I get a message on the walkie-talkie that we've all got to walk this way. We've got to meet these people on hill because they've just found a massive fossil and it's going to take all of us to get it. So now I've got to hike over jagged rocks, over all these hills to get up to the side of this one hill where I now have to help. And it's the end of the day on the last day that we're there. And now we've got all this work to do. They decided they're going to leave it, and it's the fossil the size of a bison. And the animal that it is like it's not quite a mammal, it's not quite a reptile, it's a therapsid. And I'm with this guy that has like 4 or 5 species named after him. And so Bruce Rubidge, and they've got this thing. This is another. Anyway, they decide that they're going to just take the skull, a massive skull. It's the size of a bison.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is huge. Reptilo bison that
Reptilo bison. I love that.
But we're gonna have to extract this out of the ground, and then we put it on a backpack to use as kind of a gurney, and then 6 of us are taking little baby steps together in unison to walk this heavy ass rock because it's still in the matrix.
Yeah.
So it's heavy. 6 men doing all they can just to hold this thing off the ground as we take these little baby steps over jagged rocks, up and down hills. We got to go 2 kilometers.
Oh my
to the trucks
God.
that were provided by the university. And as we're doing this, I said to Bruce, I said, these 4-wheel drives of yours, or these trucks of yours, they're 4-wheel drive, are they? And he says, they drive on roads. So
Jesus.
Yeah, so we're doing the jagged rocks. We have to take 8 steps and stop for a break, and then another 8 steps. This was the whole. This was a thing. It was a whole event to get this thing to the truck. So I decided that I'm going to be doing this again when I come back to the States. But I want a vehicle that would get all the way out there, over the jagged rocks, up the side of the hill, collect that fossil and drive its ass back so that we don't have to do this again.
Yeah.
So that's why I got my Jeep, and
it's a great Jeep.
Outfitted it the way that it is.
It's a beast. I've seen the pictures, folks. He's got to be. But I love the idea. I'm one of those people that. Why can't it be all the things we've lived this long? It's 2026. Why can't we have a truck that can be multi-purpose, aesthetically not hideous? I mean, like the Tesla, the Cybertruck is just. I mean, how many? Like in Los Angeles, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, and they're wrapped with like whatever the like foils and things, and they have camo ones, and they're promoting Monster Energy. It's a nightmare. And they're and my favorite is when we saw one recently. My boyfriend and I were on the way to a concert, and we saw, I think, it was a Cybertruck that had I got this before Elon was crazy. I'm like, no, that we already knew Elon was crazy.
Well, that's the thing I wanted to admit to.
You're an idiot.
That was the thing I wanted to admit to. I didn't know. I didn't study Elon. I heard the thing about how he did this electric car company, and I didn't realize that he had stolen the electric car company. I didn't know that he literally stole that company, and also just assumed control of some of these other countries or companies that he then copped to building.
Yeah,
that he didn't. Right. So I thought that there was some level of genius in the guy. And then, of course, he became more prominent, and I realized, wow, he's not even remotely similar to smart.
No.
So I'm deeply embarrassed that I once thought look at this guy. How he's taken on the oil industry. He's forcing the fossil fuel industry to recognize by public statements that electric cars can be high performance. And I was praising Elon Musk for this before I figured out what everybody else seemed to already know.
Well, I wouldn't say I feel like you're not alone. I mean, I know there was a time I didn't, I can't remember when, but there was a moment, and it wasn't all that long ago, where I didn't think Elon Musk was a terrible, terrible person. It maybe was 6 years ago, but there was a time when he was not a flaming pile of poop, at least openly. You know what I mean? Like it was like an onion of poop. It just, the layers peeled away, and we all saw him for what he was, which is a thief of ideas and somebody who, a silver spoon baby who grew up with a equally creepy dad. You know what I mean? Like we didn't know, sometimes we made choices and we backed people that we didn't know. I mean, speaking of people not knowing, we are seeing a lot of, how could you not know, people sort of defecting from MAGA and Trump, and all of a sudden realizing when it's affecting their gas prices, oh my God, now they're regretting their vote. And it's just disappointing. But at the same time, I don't know. It's one of those things where, and even Joe Rogan, when you have, because for me, as a comedian that also works in science, it breaks my heart and it makes me very angry. And I have no remorse for comedians that align themselves with fascists. And then when it's no longer in vogue, they all of a sudden are like, I had no idea this was going to happen. And it's like, Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, you knew, Andrew Schultz, you knew this was the platform he ran on. So I don't know. It is a weird time where people are, and their followers are now going, oh, I don't know about this now, because now we've got this, the gas prices are going up. And I don't even think it's the war that's frustrating them, but it should, honestly. I mean, and even I was thinking, I mean, like, science is political. I mean, just the fact that we know the United States hit that girls' school in Iran. And that was an error. And this is more about a social science aspect, where Pete Hegseth, when he became, got in his role, he basically got rid of all the folks that were maintaining that they did not hit civilians. They did not hurt civilians. I forget the name of the particular role I'm thinking of, but I watched a video essentially interviewing one of the main advocates for making sure civilians were not harmed in any war. And they got rid of him immediately when Trump went into office. And it's things like that, when you get rid of DEI or trying to protect civilians because it doesn't seem sexy or hot, that's when we have problems like what we had the past few weeks. And that's also what I think is just absolutely heartbreaking in this administration, is they have no love for things like anthropology or social science or sociology, things that are very important when we talk about warfare and the effects.
That's all reality stuff. That's not interesting.
That's not interesting.
Yeah. What's interesting is when we get to pretend that we're magical and that we are the reason that the universe exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, okay, it's really great that the leader of Venezuela is not popular, because that means that we can steal Venezuela's oil, and we'll use the excuse that we're liberating the Venezuelans. Oh, we can't use the oil. Our own oil companies won't touch the oil. Why is it? Because the oil is too thick. Well, how were they using the oil? Why was it valuable to Venezuelans? Because they received shipments from Iran they were receiving shipments of oil from Iran that the Venezuelans would then use to thin the oil that they had. I don't understand any of this, but this is what I'm reading, right? So what we need is to have Iranian oil to thin out the Venezuelan oil. And oh, look, we haven't been friends with this leader of Iran forever. So we should just unprovoked take him out, just like we just did the last guy. And then we can make noise about taking over not just Greenland for their natural resources as well, but we can also take over. Let's just take Cuba.
Oof.
Yeah. So let's just take whoever has oil that we want, we'll just take it.
Cuba has a lot of banana trees. A lot of banana trees. My boyfriend is Cuban, and we talk about this. No, it is a long-standing tradition in the United States that if you want it, you take it, and you destabilize. You just destabilize. You destabilize without a solution.
And why wouldn't we take it now when we desperately need something to detract or distract my base from all of these reports going public about what I did to those 12 and 13-year-old girls?
Yep.
Not just molesting them, but how I abused them in the process.
Yeah. I mean, the Epstein files, if you get into the nitty gritty of it, like the journal entries and the babies, and it's disgusting. And I think a lot of
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's one of those things where I've had conversations even with my dad. He's like, wait a minute, eating babies? And my dad is left of Lenin. My dad's very, very, very liberal, but he was just like, what?
5 or 6 years ago, as recently as 5 or 6 years ago, if you told somebody at a coffee table, around a coffee table somewhere, you told somebody that Biden and or Obama and Clinton were all involved in this baby eating pedophile global scam kind of thing, whoever's listening to you would have just swallowed it up whole.
Mhm.
They would have believed it readily. But now, I mean, because you remember I remember hearing about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago about the QAnon conspiracy thing, where they were saying that everybody in Hollywood is a devil worshipping,
Yeah.
baby eating cannibal.
They didn't invite me to those parties, Aron. I'm hurt. Why wasn't I invited? I wanted to.
I remember
I don't
asking
want to eat
my
babies,
mom,
but
I said,
I
"You don't
wanted to
really
worship
think-"
Satan.
I said, "You don't really think that Tom Hanks drinks rape baby's blood while worshiping Satan, do you?" And her answer
I
was,
just think
"Can't prove he doesn't."
what is his character on SNL? Like David S. Pumpkins? Sorry, now I'm just seeing him with the chalice of blood. Just yeah, no, it's
So it's hard to take, because we've heard this kind of story for so long. I mean, like my favorite Kubrick, my favorite director, he comes up
Mhm.
with his I think it was his last movie, Eyes Wide Shut,
Mhm.
right? And people just they'll believe that. They'll believe that there's this incredible cabal of Illuminati that are all corrupt and involved in all these horrible practices. They just won't believe that it's their guy.
right. Even though there's the crazy thing is the amount of photographs, the amount of video. It's just- it's so good. It's like that's why I had to unfriend. I had to just straight up unfollow people because, like, when I kind of kept some people in my Facebook world, because what I would do is I would go to their page because they were Trump supporters. And I'd go to their page when something terrible was happening just to see how they'd spin it. You know what I mean? It was kind of like like when I was a kid, I used to leave rocks unturned for days and then I'd flip them over to see what the bugs were doing. It's that I would flip it over and be like, oh, okay, they're doing backflips to excuse the pedophilia. But I finally got to a point where I was like, I can't anymore. I just need to just block these folks because this is a level of denial that I can't even associate with.
And then what was disturbing for me is that Epstein liked to surround himself with scientists. Why?
Yes.
Because I've heard all of these comments
Eugenics.
from people that have been at the table with Epstein complaining about how he's really stupid. He wants to surround himself with smart people. He wants to have smart conversation, but he's not capable of having smart conversation. And so it's at some point he'll get completely lost in the weeds of the conversation and turn it into something infantile.
Huh. I don't know, to be very honest, I didn't know who Epstein really was until 2019, which is bonkers because I think I might have mentioned it last time. I'm not sure. I know a lot of people who are in the files, not just because they talked at TAM, right? Like people that actually were in, like, and I knew Jack Horner. The first time I ever went on a helicopter ride was with Jack Horner. I worked with Lawrence Krauss. I worked with Michael Shermer. All these people that I was like,
As have
oh,
I. I've never met Horner.
yeah.
But I mean, I've done a number of conferences with Krauss and with Michael Shermer and with I met Steven Pinker
Yeah.
at one of these as well.
I ran into him in a
I
laundry room
drove
once.
Richard Dawkins around in my car when we
did?
were in Austin at one point. So I've met Dawkins in a bunch of different places. And it's weird to see people that I know that I've got on Facebook. Here's me and Dawkins. Here's me and Shermer, although Shermer has only taken one picture with me. The man does not like me, so we don't.
He doesn't like me either.
Yeah, we went to a conference once where we're both speakers at this conference, and then they go do an after party in a bar, and Shermer is on one. We are sitting next to each other, back to back, each talking to our own entourage, but not to each other.
I challenged him. I don't know if I wouldn't even go as far as he doesn't like me. I would honestly, he probably wouldn't remember who I am, but I remember meeting him at a party, and we got into it about the Me Too movement because I knew enough about him. And I really went hard about, why this is important and why this moment is not going to end, and it's going to continue, and men need to, because it was this whole idea of like, we don't know how to act and this and that, and it's gone too far. It's and if you don't know how to act, that means you've been acting a fool, because a good person is not going to do something that is aggressive, offensive. They'll think before they act. But I moved out to New York to work on Neil deGrasse Tyson, and a lot of the people that had been on the show, or he's not in it, but other people that were associated. And at one point, I remember one of the producers used to ask me, should we have this person on this show? And I would say absolutely not, because I knew enough about their past and the allegations against them that I was like, you're gonna, and that happened actually, a Lawrence Krauss episode. This is what was so sad. Mae Jemison, who was the first Black female astronaut, came on the show. It was one of my favorite episodes. She had such amazing things to say. I was really excited to have this air, but Lawrence Krauss was the guest on that show. And so guess what episode didn't get to air after he was disgraced? That episode. So, it's one of those things where he aligned himself. And by the way, it's really fun if you go into the Epstein files and just type in eugenics, the stuff you find, and the articles that were sent to him, because he really did like to surround himself with scientists that wanted to look into or to discuss eugenics, which, as we know, looking for a pure race doesn't exist. And if you want purity, you're talking about inbreeding. And last I checked, inbreeding is bad, really bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember when I only met Pinker once, and he said that he was never going to do another atheist convention. I had to wonder why. Why won't Pinker do it? And the reason that was reported to me about why he wouldn't do another atheist event was because of the Me Too movement. He said he didn't want to be accused of something. So he was going to just not be available to be accused of anything.
Whoa, that just tells me, like, you just told on yourself, sir. Like that, I'm sorry. If you're worried about, like, I'm telling you, good, and I'm saying it because men or women, but good men in this case know how to behave, and or maybe they've made mistakes and they'll open to learning. But if you straight up don't even want to go to a conference, that's because you behave and act a fool, and you are admitting it. Because it's not that hard not to sexually harass somebody. And I've had conversations with some very famous, very prominent men about their own Me Too instances. And I remember them saying to me, I wish the women had said something in the moment. I wish they spoke up and said I made them uncomfortable. To which I replied, you're not Joe Schmo. You are famous. You are well known. They are in the presence of somebody who is well known. It is a very awkward position when you are made to feel uncomfortable, and you do not want to speak out, even if it is some Joe Schmo. But if you are somebody in a position of power, it is you own it, to think twice before you touch, before you say something. It doesn't take a lot. It really doesn't. And I hate to do this because we should think of women as people aside from being mothers and sisters and daughters. But it's like, if you have a mother, sister, or daughter, would you want them to be engaged with this way? And
so I was speaking in Cambridge, which was a high point for me. I couldn't believe that I'm in a lecture hall in Cambridge of all places, and I'm giving one of my presentations. And while I was there, somebody said that they would have loved to have taken me to meet Stephen Hawking. They said he lives nearby. I'm one of his friends. I would gladly take you to meet Stephen Hawking. However, his health is extremely bad at the moment. He's not seeing anyone. And this was